Driving.ca, we're out in the 2023 Porsche 911 Carrera 4 GTS. This high-performing trim is about as 911 as you get before the GT3, and straight off the bat, it does a lot of things well. First off, yeah, it's fast. I have driven slower supercars than this 911 C4, but it also just does everything so well that it's honestly kind of tough to decide where to start. You see, the 911's had a really long run to get all the kinks ironed out. That is for better or worse. Evolving over the past 6 decades, this has gone from a really volatile, tail-happy platform that would easily wipe you out in a breeze if you so much as lifted at the wrong moment, to something that's really quite sedate. It's a tourer now. It's a daily driver. It's a very resoundingly pleasant vehicle, no matter what you try to do with it. I've been out in this GTS all week, and to be honest, I've yet to really find something that troubles it in any way. Now in its 8th generation, known as the 992, the Porsche 911 primarily comes with a 3-liter flat-6 engine. Now turbocharged across the entire primary lineup, with the exception of course of the 911 Turbo, which has 2 of those, the Porsche 911 puts out a whole lot of power and of course a whole lot of sound. That 3-liter flat 6 with its funky headers retains that distinctive Porsche 911 sound whenever you put your foot down. And of course, you've got power, so much power. In the case of this here GTS, it's 473 horsepower and 420 foot-pounds of torque. Routed to all 4 wheels with the excellent 8-speed PDK automatic transmission, you're looking at 3.3 second acceleration. That is obscene. Stand on the brake, stand on the gas, and release the brake, and this thing just launches without any hesitation. And not only does it launch, but it'll launch again, and again, and again. You see, Porsche's whole thing is that their cars do the things well, and they keep doing them well. I've got to admit, I've been having fun with this car, and I know that my colleagues have also been having fun with this car. And yet, at close to 10,000 kilometers, an odometer reading, by the way, which most manufacturers will readily retire a car before, this thing's just plugging on like nothing's happened. Managing all of this is 4-wheel drive. This is the Carrera 4 GTS. You can, of course, have this in rear only, which honestly is the way that I would have it, but this is part of what makes these 911s so usable year-round. From standard, you've got tremendous brakes, 13-inch in the rear and 13.8 up front. This car here just has the regular steel brakes, not the really bourgeois yellow caliper carbon ceramics, and they are more than enough for this platform. There is so much brake, it's monumental. Equipped with the lightweight packages we have here, this does curiously add a slightly heavier setup back there, but that's besides the point, because that rear end with this lightweight pack has rear axle steering. And just like the Lexus LC500 that I was raving about recently, it shrinks the car so much. It just bends around posts and parkades. This is a big car. This is a really big car. This is way bigger than a 911 should be. And yet its size is entirely manageable and inoffensive. And driven hard, it wraps itself around any bend you chuck at it. And to be honest, this becomes one of the 992's great weaknesses, or at least shortcomings. You see, the 911 has partly built its following based upon its volatility. These are cars that can do a lot. They're really capable as dailies. That's the whole idea from the start. But if you lift in the wrong place and let that weight transfer onto the front and off of that pendulum rear end, these things are supposed to spin around, except the 992 won't. It won't let you mess up. It's really frustrating. There are plenty of cars that people talk about as making the driver feel like a hero, but this does it that much more. This is a really easy car to drive really, really fast in a place where we can't really drive fast. Unless you're taking a car like this to the track, where, to be sure, they do excel and really do come alive, it does feel a bit of a waste in the same way that a McLaren cruising down Bay Street just seems squandered potential. This is a car that can take on the Autobahn, can take on the Nürburgring, and right now I'm doing 40 kilometers an hour near the Toronto Zoo. This car here is equipped, as I would argue most new Porsches should be, with the roughly $3,000 nose lift option. That, combined with a GPS-based memory system that actually records where you lift the nose and will automatically lift it for you when you get there the next time, it just makes everything so easy. The nasty curbs that I usually have to enter at an angle at my apartment, it just climbs over. Also impressive is the adaptive cruise control function. It is more than $2,000, but it offers you a lot of options for follow distance from the car ahead of you, and it accommodates start-stop in really slow and rough traffic. It's these sort of functions that reduce a lot of the driver fatigue that would normally make a sports car like this really nasty to deal with on the day-to-day. And yet between the micro turning radius that's letting me pull U-turns in tiny parking lots like that, it's just really livable. And it's really pleasant. This car, even with the lightweight kit, which supposedly removes some of the noise insulation and thins the glass, is still very quiet until you actually roll into it. And to make the most of that quiet, the available premium audio upgrade in this car really does impress. Of course, there are the old no highs, no lows, must be Bose jokes, but in this case, you get such detail and clarity across the range. You are able to hear things that you normally wouldn't be able to. It's been really quite enjoyable, but of course, such is par for the course in a lot of these Porsches. Now, the 2023 911s run Porsche's updated cabin. Gone is that really cluttered center console, which made some of the previous models a little unpleasant to find options in. You still get hard buttons for key temperature and climate options, and if so equipped, for your dynamic exhaust, your dynamic damping, and so on and so forth. I've also got to give Porsche credit for the center drive selector. As much as I was hoping to find a stick here, I've got to say that this center selector knocks into place with a really satisfying detent. Pairing well with that, the paddle shifters here in the 911 just feel excellent. The magnetic release gives them a really crisp and yet nicely damped feel whenever you pull them. And unlike a lot of the metallic plastic paddles that we see in cars like BMWs, I think these really are some of the nicest paddles you're going to find in anything. With that being said, the Sport Chrono drive mode selector does feel a little plasticky and is kind of ugly protruding from the steering wheel here. Likewise, the hard plastics here on these steering wheel controls, well, they do feel good and hardy, they aren't exactly inspiring materials. With that being said, I also take issue with the piano blacks down the center stack here. Yes, they look good when they're clean, but they are absolute fingerprint magnets. They will gradually etch with wiping, and they can actually give you a pretty blinding glare under direct sunlight in the middle of the day. It's well executed as piano blacks go, but this is something that really needs to die. I've also got to make a point about the cameras in this car, and really Porsches in general, I've noticed. This GTS is equipped with full 360-degree cameras, and the feeds are very sharp. They load in quickly, and you get really clean high resolution. With that being said, the fisheye effect in how they're actually rendered on screen is a little awkward and honestly misleading when you're parking. Even in really broad spaces, adjacent cars will look this close when you still have several feet of space. Honestly, I've just started ignoring the camera feeds and sticking to the good old-fashioned mirrors. Porsche has been on a major brand building push through recent years, and with the whole culture that's accelerated around the 911, Porsche can really name its price and print money. And they are. A GTS like this starts at $166. Yes, nice as it is, you could probably save the $4,500 on this carbon interior trim, and those center lock wheels, a little unnecessary. The $3,000-ish for that front lift, the $9,000 for that lightweight package, which includes that rear axle steering, the approximately $6,000 for the premium package, which includes that audio and a bunch of other little perks, and the $5,000 GTS interior package. Throw in another $20,000 for that luxury tax, and the rest of your freight fees, taxes, and all of that, and you're looking toward $250,000 out the door for a car like this. For that kind of money, you've really got to want it. For Driving.ca, I'm Al Alder. For more sports car news, reviews, specs, previews, and all the rest, be sure to follow us online on Driving.ca and check out our socials on Instagram and Twitter. Now, if you don't mind...